Right. So today we are talking about objects, which are instances of classes. And here we have 3 pieces of vocabulary that we have not yet learned, and we will talk about them today, what all of this means. But first, let's do a little bit of a review. We have our primitive versus reference types. We've talked about these several times now. Our primitive types are those basic data types like char, int, double, and boolean. They store primitive values. Reference types, the one we've learned about primarily has been string. They are made by programmers, and they often use primitive types. So a string is really just a collection of character values, right? And our reference variable is going to store the address of that value rather than the actual primitive value. So let's go into some more details about this first box here. When are we talking about objects today? So all reference type values hold a reference to an object and provide a means of accessing those objects in our computer's memory. An object is a variable of a data type that is user-defined. Is the initialized form of a reference type. So if I have string name equals Mr. Macmillan, name is an object of the string type, because string is not just a basic primitive variable type. String was created by the programmers who made Java in order for other programmers who use Java to use in their programs. So string itself was created by Java programmers. So our name is an object. Let's look a little bit more at what an object means. So all objects have 2 primary attributes. They have a state and they have a behavior. And let's talk about what that actually means with a very specific example. So let's say I have a rectangle. This rectangle is going to be our example object. All rectangles have certain characteristics. They have certain pieces of information about them. For instance, this rectangle's length and width, or width and height. That is information about this object. In my code, I'm going to have some variable that is going to represent a rectangle, and that variable will have a width and a height quality that I can use to determine what size this rectangle is. So let's say the user has defined the width and height of this rectangle as 30 and 10. Those pieces of information are stored within our rectangle object. So our rectangle will know its width is 30 and its height is 10. And it'll be able to use that for different things. So the state of an object is the data about that object. So the data that is associated with this object, my rectangle 1 object, is its width of 30 and its height of 10. If I were to make an object that were to reference my phone, I could have any number of different qualities about it. It has a length, or a width, a height, and a depth. It has a number of cameras. It has a number of buttons. It has a variety of different qualities about it that I could represent. And when I filled in those qualities, then I have given an object a state. An object's behavior is defined by the actions that you can perform on that object. So some example actions for this rectangle could be finding its area or its perimeter. Since I know the width and height, I can find either of those values by doing a little bit of math. The behaviors of an object are almost always directly related to the state of said object. We cannot find the area or perimeter of a rectangle without knowing what the width and height of said rectangle are. Does this example of an object and what the definition of state and behavior are make sense? Any clarifying questions that anyone needs? All right. So we have our rectangle 1 object, and I can make another rectangle object that is different from my first rectangle object. They are both rectangles, but here I have a separate object. I have two distinct objects. They both have a width, they both have a height, but the values for those slots are different. This rectangle 1 has a width of 30, rectangle 2 has a width of 15. And their heights are also different. So they have a different state from one another, but they have similar types of states. They both have that same width quality, they both have a height, and they can both, I can perform the same behavior with either one of these rectangles. I can find the area of either one. I can find the perimeter of both of these rectangles. So they are both the same type of object, but they are in different states. So how do I, in my code, create an object? Objects are created from classes. So in our code, if we remember the skeleton, we made our public class myProgram. We are creating classes, and classes are blueprints for creating objects. Classes are going to store information about what an object's state and behavior can be, and how that object can be used in a program. So, I'm going to give a very pseudocode example of what a class looks like. For those of you not familiar with the term, pseudocode is the process of just writing out in normal English what we want our code to be doing. So here I've written out in pretty much regular old English what my rectangle class is going to be doing. So I am defining my rectangle class, and I have those curly braces just to say everything inside of here is part of my rectangle class. So two things about my rectangle class. Every rectangle must have a width and height. That's going to define the state of my class and object. And the area and perimeter of a rectangle can be calculated using its width and height values. So that is the behavior associated with our rectangle class. Does that make sense? Does our very rough blueprint of a rectangle? All right. So essentially what we're doing with classes is we are creating our own new data types. So when this becomes closer to real code, I will have created a rectangle data type, which I can make variables of. So my rectangle object template, this is my class. It's got a name, and it's got a width and height. And then my actual rectangle object, when I'm referring to a real actual rectangle, I have its actual name, and I've filled in its width and height. So when I create an object, it is called an instance of the class that it belongs to. So if you remember all the way back to that table in the first slide, with reference types, they're instantiable classes. I can make an instance of this class. I can make a variable of my class type. And when I've created a variable of that class type, it is an instance of that class. So both of these rectangles are instances of my rectangle class. So given this definition, both of them have a width and a height. Perfect. And I should be able to calculate the area and perimeter of both using their width and heights. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So when we create programs using objects and classes, we are doing a type of programming called object-oriented programming. And we're going to explore more of what that all means as we dive more deeply into classes. But for right now, just know writing programs that use objects and classes is called object-oriented programming. So here's a brief recap of all of the vocabulary we talked about today. A class is a user-created data type. It is the blueprint for creating objects. Objects are variables with a class as their data type, and they have state and behavior. An instance is a created object of a specific class. State is any data associated with an object or class. A behavior are the actions that can be performed by an action or class, and they're often related to the state of that object or class. And lastly, object-oriented programming is the use of classes and objects in our code. So I'm going to open a couple of examples from CodeHS. Here is our first code example that they give us. Here's what actual code of creating a class looks like. We have our public class and then the name of the class. Anytime we name a class, we're going to capitalize that first letter. That's why string has its first letter capitalized, because string is a class. And then after that, if our name is multiple words long, we will continue to use the camel case. So it'll be rectangle has feet, I guess would be, I can capitalize the first letter of each word. So I've created my rectangle class, and then inside I've got my two integers, width and height. And we'll talk about what private means later down the line. Right now, that's not super important. So anything else that we include in this class will go roughly here. And since this class does not have a main, unlike all of the classes we've been working with so far, since we don't have a main, if I click code, nothing's going to happen because there's no code to actually run. I'm going to get this error saying, hey, there is no main for me to run. What are you trying to do? So if I open up, let's just look at this example. Clear that out. But here, this is what it's going to look like when we use multiple files in CodeHS. It's automatically going to open our pizza tester Java. That is the class that has a main method in it. Our pizza tester.java on the left, we're in our file browser menu here. You can see that that file has a little play button next to it. So when I click run code, that is the class that will be run here. If I click on my pizza.java, it should look like this when you open it up on your end. Our public class pizza, and we're going to add any instance variables in here so that when I can create an object of the pizza type in my pizza tester class. Does navigating the multiple files make sense? Okay. Then I will stop sharing. I will stop recording.